Hey everyone, Jonathan Shaw here from the DTO system, creator of the DTO system and author of the book, The DTO Handbook, which is going to be available very shortly. Just a quick video to, oh, I'm on live, good, just checking, I can't see the camera. Just a quick video, part 2 of why mental health is getting worse in the UK and around the world. If you watch part 1, you'll understand that the first reason mental health is getting worse is because we believe it can't be solved. If you haven't watched that video, go back and watch that video first. But the second reason mental health is getting worse in the world today is because of the way we view mental health, basically the way we only address the symptoms of mental health. So we're only treating the symptoms and we're not treating the cause. Thank you for everyone who's saying hello right now, who's online. I can't actually see you because the sun again is in my eyes. So I'll reply to any comments that you made after the video. And if you think anyone could benefit from this video, then please share it. And please like and send hearts, because I love seeing those come up. That really keeps me motivated to post videos. So why is mental health getting worse? Simply because we're only treating symptoms and not cause. What do I mean by that? Basically, we view mental health as either something that's being mental or something that is emotional. And the truth is, neither of those are true. It's not mental and it's not emotional. It's actually a biological response in the body. Now, what do I mean by that? I do not mean it's cellular or DNA based. I mean that our bodies are going into a biological response, which is fight and flight. So when you are suffering with depression or anxiety or any type of mental health, you're actually going into a fight and flight state, which is a biological response in your body to protect you in times of danger. So we actually have to address the biological response, not the emotions and the thoughts straight away. We've got to find what put us into that state to begin with, and then address the emotions and thoughts. Now, a few days ago, last week, in fact, I put out a post, just an image of why we suffer with mental health, and I got loads of great comments and questions about that. A lot of the things that people commented on were actually the symptoms that people look at today. So they were divorce, or they were childhood, or they were loss of income, or they were trauma, they were social media, people putting pressure on us these days, and those are all great comments. A lot of those, though, are actually symptoms, because those are what put us into the biological response, but they're not the biological response. So, for instance, I treated a guy last year, and he was going through a divorce, and this put him into a fight and flight state. So the scenario that was happening around him, i.e. the divorce, is what put him into fight and flight. But then what we did is we found the fight and flight response, we found the memories and the triggers around that, and switched that off, and then his depression lifted and he went back to work feeling great again. So really what we're looking for is a biological response, and there's only a couple of biological responses that really cause depression. So we can say that the emotions, anger, frustration, fear, shame, guilt, worry, whatever it is, are causing the problem, but actually in reality there's a biological response, and the main biological response for depression is a sense of loss. Again, hello everyone who's joining, who's coming online. I can see you coming on, but I can't see who you are. It's a beautiful day out here in Portugal, and the sun is shining, and it's right in my eyes. I really should pick a better place to do it where the sun's not shining in my eyes. So what we want to do is so I will say hello to everyone when I leave the video. If anyone posts any comments, I'll answer them after the video. But what we want to find a biological response. The main biological response for depression is a sense of loss. And now I don't mean grief and things like that, although that is a sense of loss. What I mean is when we feel we've lost something, that's when we often go into depression. That is the biological response that puts us in to fight and flight. So all of the other emotions that we have to scenarios and life events, they're not really the problem. Really, it's the biological sense of loss underneath it. So for instance, this guy who was suffering with depression from a divorce, yes, the divorce was the situation, but it was a sense of loss he was feeling around it that was putting him into fight and flight. This is why some people can go through a divorce, or they can go through a grief, or they can go through a trauma in their life, or a life situation, and be okay with it and move through it and be okay. And others can't, and that's because they're going into the fight and flight response and they're feeling a sense of loss. So some people, when they grieve, they don't feel a sense of loss. They're sad, they have the normal emotional responses that you would do with grief, but they don't feel that sense of loss. So they don't go into fight and flight, so the grief doesn't stay around. So the fight and flight response is the most important response to find, and with depression, it's a sense of loss. So with this guy that I treated, he had a sense of loss of losing his children. He had a sense of loss of losing the partner he loved, and he also lost his father when he was a very small child. And those combination of those things was causing depression. As soon as we lifted all of that, his depression just lifted away. And this is one of the things that I found when I was trying to solve my own depression, was realizing it's a sense of loss. Once I realized that, and I had a great way to take that and switch it off, then everything was absolutely fine, and I could do that again. What I want everyone to realise is that it is just a sense of loss that's the problem and nothing else. You need to find the sense of loss. It doesn't matter what's happened around us, what the event is, whether it's a divorce or it's a grief or it's childhood trauma or it's the economy or it's redundancy or a lack of money. That's actually not the problem. It's actually the way we're responding to it. It's if we go into a biological response over it, then we're going to end up with depression. And all we do with the DTO system is we find the memory, or we find the trigger for the biological response, and we switch it off. So with this guy, for instance, obviously the memories were obviously of the separation, of his partner telling him she wants the separation. Those are the memories. And then there were certain triggers, like getting text messages from her. There was a couple of triggers at home. There was a trigger at work. And once we switched those off, thank you for that like, Claire, really like that, thank you. And I saw one earlier on as well. Appreciate that. Keep the likes and the hearts coming. And again, if you think this is relevant to someone, if you know someone this could benefit, then please pass it on, because this is the information that's not out there. Mental Health Awareness Week was a few weeks ago, and although I think it's great that we should become aware, it was actually completely shit, if I'm really honest. We're all going, yeah, we're aware of mental health. What do we do about it? It's just stupid behaviour. We need to become aware of how to solve it, not just aware that everyone's got it. We all know people have got mental health. We're not daft. We've known it for years. We need a campaign that solves it, not just becomes aware of it. This is just nonsense behaviour. And I've kind of stayed behind the curtains quite a while about this, but really I want people, the reason I help people is I don't believe we should be suffering illness and disease anymore. I don't believe we need to. And I've helped so many people solve so many different things. I know we don't need to. And especially when it comes to mental health, we don't need to be suffering that. We're just addressing the wrong thing. Oh, all the likes and hearts there. Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you. Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much for all those likes and smiley faces. That's brilliant. I love that. So I want people to be healthy and happy. I want people to live their lives without illness and disease. And I know it's possible, but we need to change our view of how we view health and disease. Because the way we view health and disease right now, and illness right now, is shit. It doesn't work. It doesn't solve the problem. We want to look at things that solve the problem. And don't get me wrong, if you have a car accident, you have an injury, go and see a doctor. But if you have an illness or a disease, the way we deal with it now is just coping strategies. And nobody wants to live like that. Nobody wants to live with illness and disease. So we have to have a new way of looking at things. And this is one of the best ways to do it, I know, because I solved my own depression like this, and I've solved many people's depression. And by finding that sense of loss and any other biological response, you can actually switch it off. And I use the DTO system to find that response and switch it off, and then the person returns back to normal. And I say normal not because you're abnormal, but a lot of people with depression, they just want to feel normal again. In fact, a lot of people are ill, they just want to feel normal again. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but when you have depression, you don't feel normal. I know what that's like. You just feel abnormal. You can't focus, you can't concentrate, you keep yourself away from people, you isolate yourself, which makes you worse. Another biological response for depression is feeling alone. That biological response of feeling alone actually makes us go into our own heads and makes us even more depressed, and we're even more alone. The more alone we become, the more depressed we can become. So that's another biological response you want to look for. And it's a little bit more subtle though sometimes, the alone response. And so is a loss. The loss conflict is sometimes subtle. You may be experiencing anger or resentment or bitterness, but underneath that will be a sense of loss. Sometimes we know what we've lost. We've lost a loved one or we've lost a job, but that's not what I mean. I mean the sense of loss inside of us, not the loss of something external. It's the sense of loss inside of us, a loss of identity, a loss of purpose, a loss of motivation, a loss of a loss of just being a good person. Sometimes we feel like we're a bad person, and because we made mistakes in the past. And some of my clients, they feel like a loss of goodness or a loss of kindness. So it's actually a sense of loss inside of us, not an external loss. And again, thank you for your comments. I can't read them right now, the sun's in my eyes, but I will read them afterwards. So we really want that to find that sense of loss and switch that off, and that is the biological response. That will bring us out of fight and flight. Once we come out of fight and flight, then our depression will lift, our anxiety will go, all of our health will return, and we'll turn back to normal again, and we'll be in a healthy, well-balanced state. It's only the fight and flight response that create the problem. And that's the beauty of it. The DTO system, it switches off that fight and flight response. It can't switch off positive things. It only switches off that fight and flight response. And the thing about fight and flight, when we're in fight and flight, we're not being ourselves. When we're in a fight and flight state, we're not being who we truly are, because that state is designed for if we're in danger. That state is designed for if our life is being threatened. And in the most part, it's not these days. And we've applied flight and flight to a lot of scenarios that don't need to be applied to. So the main point here is to find the sense of loss that's kicked in the fight and flight, switch that off, and within a few weeks, a few months, your depression will lift. Depending on how severe it is, your depression will lift, and you'll go back to be able to live your life, feel normal again, feel happy, and just feel like you're part of the world again. Because I know that when you have depression, you don't feel part of anything. I hope that made sense to you guys. There is a part 3 to this. There is another reason why mental health is getting worse. I hope you all enjoy this. By all your likes and hearts and smiley faces, you seem to really enjoy this. Thank you for all of those, because I really appreciate that. I really appreciate your feedback and your comments, and I will read all of your comments after the video. And if you have any questions about this, because it does lead to other questions, if you have questions, then post a question and I will answer that question in another video. I'll create more content to answer that question for you, because it does lead to more questions. You're going to have more questions about it, and that's totally cool. And again, if you know anyone who could benefit this, anyone suffering right now, please share this, pass this on, because all I want is for people to be healthy and happy. That's all. That everyone deserves that in this world. Everyone deserves to be healthy and happy, and we need to do that. We need to look at a different way so people can be. Take care. Have a great rest of your weekend. I'll be posting part 3 at some point in the week. I did say I'd post part 2 on Friday, but I get caught up with things. I get so busy that I didn't manage to do that. So I'm not going to say when I'm going to post part 3 in case I mess it up again. So if you was waiting for it, I apologise. But it's here now. Part 3 will be some point in the week, and I look forward to speaking to all you guys then. And I look forward to reading all your comments. Take care. Have a great week. Speak to you later. Bye.